Okay, now it does say we're live streaming.
We are live, so rewind, redo.
It's all
Sorry,
right.
folks, we're back Monday.
We've actually been talking for the past 9 minutes, just so everybody knows. We were here, but it didn't actually stream. But guess what? It's another Monday, people. So go ahead and finish that up.
Somebody didn't push the button, did they? Sorry, folks, we're back Monday.
We've actually been talking for the past 9 minutes, just so actually stream. But guess what? Oh,
Okay,
goodness, it is another Monday, and we are
that's
back
the
here.
problem. See, that was the whole problem. It's another Monday, and we so warped into it so fast, we just hadn't caught up and doing all the right things at the moment. So we'll get
Like
our act
I said,
together here, folks.
I said it, guys. If you're out on our Mindful Nuggets Instagram or you're out on our Substack, I put it out there that Monday was going to come very quickly on Friday afternoon. I said we're going to be right back here.
You
It's
blinked
going to
again.
happen just like
You got to
that.
stop that. Time goes by too quick when you do that.
It's going by way too fast, but it just seems like we were here last Monday, or just here a few days ago, actually, not last Monday, which was last Monday. I'm just saying it was quick. It was very, very quick. But
Well, I
welcome
know,
back,
but we were too busy with the 4th of July.
everyone. Oh gosh, 4th of July. It was a busy, busy weekend for sure. So, did you have a good 4th of July, Mr. William?
I did. We went to the neighbors. We shot off a lot of fireworks, and we had a great time. And I got to watch the replay of a lot of other cities. New York put on a like massive show. Nashville was intense, and then what really caught my eye was Boston in the harbor with all the ships that with the clippers and everything. The heritage of our naval vessels
Yeah.
in that fought in the war too, back in for freedom, and then drones,
Now
massive
the
amount of drones.
drones captivated me this weekend. I was really, just taken back by how much a drone can really put on a show. And quite honestly, my question is, and we'll save this for another topic, but do you think the drones are going to replace fireworks?
Well, that's a great question because it really caught my eye. I mean, I like all the explosions, the experience, because it sounds like small arms fires and then cannons going off. It reminds you of what really happened back for in 1776 when we were fighting for our freedom. And there's a
Right,
lot of
right.
gunpowder that was let loose, and a lot of bullets that flew, and a lot of cannonballs flying. And so I don't know, think they ever replace it. It's too big of an industry anyway.
I
But
think it's pretty funny though that you say that because I don't know how it is where you are, but where I am, many people get on, Facebook or mainly Facebook, I would say, next door, and they're all like, oh, let's try and keep the fireworks, to a minimum, and let's not upset,
yeah,
and I'm not
right.
taking away from the PTSD and the dogs and the cats and things like that. I'm just saying that, it's interesting to hear you say hitting that background of our history, because tonight we're going to be talking about a
Mhm.
very popular topic right now, which is freedom, foundations, and the soul of a nation, and why nations drift when they forget the source of freedom. So we're going to be talking about freedom tonight. So I think it's
Definitely.
very interesting that you come back to the battleground and speaking upon how the cannons were shooting, the guns were,
Well,
shooting.
but there was a
So,
cost that was paid for that, and it was paid in blood, paid in
right.
lives. And but I was, going back when I was thinking about that before we get into the actual part of this, like how many hundreds of millions of dollars just went up in smoke on that evening, the fireworks. My goodness, it's just amazing
Lots
that
of
that
money.
yeah, it was just, I mean, seriously, I mean, it was for entertainment and that's what it went for. But it's just like you burning money. You might as well poof, that's what happened to it. It blew up.
It goes right up. Right.
So it's
However,
like,
there was some interesting fireworks this year. Let's just,
there was
while
some
we're on
good
this
stuff.
topic, there were some very interesting fireworks. Our neighbor across the street here had one that they shut off. It was huge too, like it was a brick.
Right.
And when they lit it, it would rapid fire. and it would shoot like an AR up into the sky.
Oh, I love those. Yeah, it
And I
actually
was
sounds
just,
like it sounded like a 50 caliber going on. Thump, thump, thump,
yes,
thump, 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 thump. Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
And it
I know
lit
which one you're
up this.
talking about.
Yeah, it was a huge brick though. But here's the thing is that it caught on fire and then they left it in the middle of
They're
the
just
road.
like, yeah,
Right. I'm like, come on.
fire extinguishers, folks. But let's go back because I mean, the Chinese had invented gunpowder, and all of a sudden they have fireworks, and then we inherited that to
Right.
remember what was fought for back in the day.
Hmm.
And in any war, you've got cannons going off, explosive rounds flying, all those things, and people die. And it's the cost of freedom. And what freedom is to us is a way to have our way of life where
Hmm.
we don't have oppression, we don't have tyranny. And that's really, it was what God gave us because true freedom exists in Him. And when we're in line with Him, we can experience that true freedom because it stays in balance as it's supposed to. In today's time, it's drifted as any nation goes. I mean, we came to America to get away from what? The same thing that is existing now: tyranny, oppression,
That's exactly why
nationalism.
we came over here to get away from it all.
We were a republic, and then the word drifted into democracy, which is different from a republic. And then I'm not so sure we're a democracy at the moment.
Mm.
And,
I'm not
that's
sure about the
I don't get it.
democracy, but
Yeah, I don't get into politics. I don't. It's not. I just. It's not me. But I have to question. What are we? Sometimes on it. And
that's
then
a great
sometimes,
question.
yeah.
Maybe our listeners tonight, as you hit that subscribe button, chime on in here and let's have that conversation.
But
So,
the thing is,
but you know,
yeah. Well, if we people died for us to remain free, do we even respect that anymore? In
well, I
fact,
mean, our fathers have passed, our sons have passed, our daughters have passed, our brothers, our mothers, we've had families totally destroyed by, wars and the things
we
that have
have.
taken place in this country and what we've fought for. And that's a huge sacrifice that has been made to keep us
It
free.
is. It is.
And
And
are
see, the
we
thing,
stepping away from that history is the question.
I think we're repeating history, Michelle. Because, like I said, what do we run from? Well, we can't run from it anymore because there's nowhere to go.
Right.
It's our identity. Where we place our identity creates the behaviors, and how our behaviors are determines if we have a respect or not, or don't have a respect for other people. And if we don't have a respect for other people, then we have chaos and we have self-centeredness. And the next thing you know, we get people angry at anything, they kill you or fight you or try to do damage, or they don't have any, common decency
So we
about
had
themselves.
that happen the other day. I mean, we've had two families destroyed just 2 days. 2 days prior to the 4th of July, two families were completely destroyed. We talk about respect, we talk about, having, love for one another. And if that's lost, well, here, let me just give you an example of what happened. Um, don't know the details. Here's what we do know. We do know that two men engaged in a road rage situation. One got out, shot the other dead. Two families' lives completely changed in less than moments.
Just because they can emotionally
Just
regulate,
because.
they have
Just
that lack of character, they have a lack of development, and that just, if I can't have it my way, then I'm gonna throw a fit. And now that when you get old enough, you can just shoot them. It's just that there's no respect of humanity, and it's the human condition, and it always swings to that way until it gets to the point that it's like a pendulum. It gets so far, and then enough's enough. And when God says it's enough, then it becomes enough, and things happen on it. But nations fall because of it. You
exactly.
know, a government that's powerful enough to control every aspect of life eventually begins replacing God Himself. Where are we at with that statement?
Mm. I mean, that sounds like our today situation.
It does, doesn't it?
We do not have that conversation of God in our, even in the address over the weekend, there was no mention of, God and how our, how our country was founded and where it came from and why it is here today the way it is. There was no mention of any of that. None
I just,
whatsoever.
well, so that's a major point. We as humans need reminders. We're living history, but we're extremely poor historians. We really are. We don't look back over 100 year span. We're talking about drones, and then we're talking about ships in the harbor. They're back 1800, even 1700s. Wooden ships, iron cannons, balls shot to drones that actually drop ordnance now in wars strategically. That vast difference of technology in 100, 200 years is just mind blowing. How can you even think you were on a sailing ship? Next thing you know, you're on an iron ship with turrets that can shoot 18 miles, 20 miles. Next thing you know, you got submarines. Next thing you know, you got aircraft. Then you got aircraft carriers. Then you got technology. Now you got radar. You got all these things. And all of a sudden we're in space. Now we're talking AI. Now we got robots that are programmed that interface. They talk to you like humans.
Yeah.
There's not a
They
lot of
bring
time
you
that's
your
gone
food
by.
now.
Yes, and I don't like that. I really don't.
I don't either, but that is where, I mean, again, this
But
is the
it's a
pro.
way to cut the labor down, and you're still getting crappy food.
Yeah,
And
that's
most
very
of
true.
it's probably imitation by now because you
Oh,
got to think about
absolutely.
how many hamburger patties there are. Is there enough cows to make that many hamburger patties? I doubt it.
There is not enough cows in this world to make
Okay.
those
All
hamburger
right. So
patties.
I mean so your nutrition's off, your alignment's off. That's what I'm saying. Everything's off.
Yeah.
It's drifted so far, it's gotten way out of control. And now we're seeing the price of misalignment is what it's
Hmm.
coming down to. Now we're paying the cost of freedom in a different way than what we paid originally, what it was for a way of living, a right to live righteously and in order and be able to speak and not have the threat or the fear of being shot because you voiced an opinion and have a difference on it. And then we can agree that, that may be sound, may not be sound. I don't agree with you. That's fine. But at least have the dignity to respect another person for their existence because God created you, created me, created Michelle, created everybody on this planet. But we somehow forgot that in our conversations.
We tend to forget a lot in our conversations about what this country was founded
Mm-hmm.
on. Let's
So,
be real.
yeah, earlier, if you go back into 1800s, there's a lot of monuments that were built in Washington, D.C. There's one we're getting ready to talk about that is hidden in Plymouth that most people don't even know exist, which is sad because it's one of the main frameworks of how to sustain freedom in not just this country, any country. But we ignore it. Why? Michelle's going to bring up a picture of this to show you. This is the National Monument of the Forefathers. It's in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Imagine that, where we're landed. And this monument is a matrix that was inspired by our founding fathers in the Constitution and a way to have freedom God's way. And I'll give you a brief overview of it. At the top is faith. And as you can notice, what's faith doing? It's
Pointing to
pointing.
God. Pointing to
And,
God.
and there's a wreath around her head that has a star. And that star, most time, people are associating as Star of David, living righteously. So you got to have faith in order to please God and align with Him. That's the very first rule with Him. If you don't have faith, it's works and works are dead. And with faith, you please Him. All right. So at first, we need to get in alignment. So He needs to come first. Basically saying, in all things in our government and in everything at the homestead, everything individually, we need to talk to our Heavenly Father first. If we don't, we're taking matters in our own hand. Well, guess what? We're like boats in the water or people on the shoreline. And if we're not anchored to a point, we drift. And we can drift so far, we get out of alignment so bad, chaos reigns. And that's what I
Mm.
see today.
Okay. Hmm.
But first and foremost, it's faith. But if you go down below, there are four sides, four facets to this, and they're very important because each one stacks on top of the other. And without them, this doesn't work. The very first one is in order to have a healthy nation and have a free nation, you need morality. So, gut check here. Does your compass point north? Do you have a conscience about and respect about people's lives? Do you? Or is it self-centered? Morality is very important because if we don't have a sense of morality, we don't care. If we don't care, then this is what you see that's happening today. People get in fights, people sabotage, people kill. There's no respect. The governments do what they want. It's not a democracy. It's not even a republic, but it's not even a democracy on it. So,
Like we said, we debated that question in our conversation
yeah.
here. So those of you watching us live currently, get in there and get in that conversation and let us know. What are your thoughts? Tonight's
So,
topic is on.
exactly. So, if you can't restrain yourself or emotionally regulate, and even though you may not like what's going on or something, are you walking righteously in the way God asked you to walk? Or are you not? That's basically that's morality. And then from morality flows the law, the word righteousness. God originally, back in the Old Testament, even though we chose the law, God is very righteous. He still is today. He hasn't changed. The father of the house has rules. He expects you to live up to it because he knows that if you don't, we drift and we get into what we are today again. And so he
We have
set
drifted
forth.
so far away from that
And
conversation.
the
I mean,
law, yeah, the law reminds us that we can't keep the word of God. It shows the condition of the heart. It has a way to remedy it through the law, and it's either on this earth serving time or paying money. But in God's law, breaking it is called sin, and that's a heavy price to pay.
but you don't
Yeah.
even hear that conversation anymore. I mean, there's no conversation about sin anymore either. So we're
Well,
not having a conversation about God and we're not having a conversation about sin. We've just
right.
wiped conversations out of the whole context
Well,
of the
if you
way we
don't
live.
talk about it, that there are consequences, well, then I don't have to own up to the consequences. I can just ignore them and go do what I want. And then when people start thinking, well, I can get away with it, there's no consequences, then it comes into a normality of behavior that think that way's okay. And it's not.
But that is the behavior that we have out here today in our world. It's I'm all about me. I'm all about what I have going on. Why aren't you hearing me? It's a very me conversation in today's world.
It is. And what's even more important is the law is rooted in the truth.
Right.
Okay, well, what is the truth? Can anybody tell me what the truth is? I can tell you, man didn't make it. He can't create truth.
So, Amy says sin comes up a lot in my conversations because it's what destroys marriages. Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, Amy.
Wait,
100%.
that's where we're at in today's world too. And there's no,
So,
and many people think there's no consequences to that whatsoever. Oh, well, it's I love these people who say, well, we have an open marriage. Want to explain that one to me? Because not in my book.
no, there's no commitment to that. That's just, I want to go play. I want to have
Right.
something to hold on to, and then I want to go play in sample
Right.
and
I want
try
to have
different
something to be mad
desserts.
over whenever the other one goes and does
Yeah,
it.
that's what that means. So, when things get tough too, well, I'm done with you. I'll go over here because I like that flavor better today.
Yeah, but
That's
this
you.
is the conversations that we have come to today that were definitely not here 50 years ago.
No,
Okay. 50 years
God was
ago,
pretty
whenever I
miffed
was
about
growing
that.
up, we had still had godly conversations. We still had sitting at the dinner table, praying before dinner, praying before we get up in the morning, we say our prayers, before we go to bed at night, saying our prayers. That's the way I was raised. And we're so far
Uh,
removed from that. We
well,
have
that's
chosen a
because it doesn't
different
matter. I think you mentioned somebody that says, well, prayers don't matter because I need to pay bills or, I need
yeah,
to do this.
and it's interesting because right before, I know we're kind of going down a rabbit hole for a second, but just really quickly entertain us here. Uh, it's funny you say that, Mr. William, because I had another phone call from a completely different person who had someone tell them the same thing today. Now, how interesting is that? Okay, guys, so out here on Mindful Nuggets podcast, this was the comment that was made. Two separate days, two separate people. Prayers don't pay bills. I
That's
have been
funny.
very heartbroken by this conversation. I have been very, very heartbroken by this conversation because I've seen prayers pay bills
You personally have, and I know that, and I have too.
personally. Yeah,
I
and
know
and you
I've been witness to it. I've seen
right.
it. You've seen what's happened to me and
We've
things
seen it on
move
my side. Yeah, we've watched it.
in the
We've watched
supernatural
prayers
that
pay
you had
bills.
no. And so, but we want to take control, and because if we take control, therefore, I mean, let's look at it this way: control is inverse to trust.
Yeah,
So I've got a control issue because I don't see it working. So I'm just going to take charge and do it myself under my own power. But you're forgetting a supernatural power that actually built the world, owns the world, has all the money, and can direct it your way if you're in alignment with them. But as soon as you don't, and you break away like we are, and prayer doesn't work, well, I wonder why. You don't have a relationship.
right.
Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, I had to ask, and even the person who called me today, who was heartbroken over that comment by another person to her, who's very, much a Christ follower. That's why she called me. She said, I'm just really heartbroken. I said, that's interesting, that this is coming to me because yesterday I just mentioned to my co-host on Mindful Nuggets about how this was very disturbing to me for someone who said the exact same thing. Prayers don't pay bills. Well, if you have this relationship with God, I can promise you, I've written it down, the days that I have prayed and he's paid a bill. I have
Now,
doc
like you said, I know. I have witnessed it, and it has happened. He's taken care of, but he takes care of his own that believe in him. He always does. Going back to this monument, what's the very first thing you need?
God.
Who's faith? Faith is on
Same,
top.
same to me.
Faith, and she's pointing. She's having faith in
I
God.
mean, he's pointing where you need to be
Okay,
going here.
without faith, then I'm saying, well, they didn't pay the bill, so I don't have any faith. And because I don't have any faith, of course, it's not going to help you.
Yeah, Amy's got it. My God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory, which
Glory.
is, I have it written down here. That is, I have it written down. I know I do. It's Philippians, right?
It
Philippians
is
4:19.
Philippians. Yes.
Hey,
Mhm.
I'm
Four
getting
eight.
better.
Yeah, it's not 4:8, but yeah,
I think it's 4:19 if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely Philippians chapter 4. But see what that says. He spoke everything into existence. That means he's
That's
the
right.
owner. Okay, if he's the owner, he can bless you with what he owns. We're just stewards. And a good steward knows how to have faith. And if you're trusted with little, you can eventually be trusted a lot. But if you don't trust him at all, you're not going to get the little.
That's right. That's right. Well, if you don't make a
So,
commitment, you're only going to get the little.
yeah, and
I
it's
mean, I've
just,
seen that firsthand, and so have you. Make the commitment.
yeah, I can't, yeah, I look back on my whole life and I think, well, what was wrong with my mind and my soul, all back in this because I've been conditioned the way of the world. Well, when Christ intervenes in your life, you start seeing the world for what it is. And it grows dim to me every day because I don't operate in it. I have to live in it, but I don't operate in it. And that's a key takeaway right there, folks. is your system of operation. And when you're saying that it doesn't pay the bills, well, you're operating in the world system, not his.
Yes,
Reality
you are.
check. Reality check. You
That was, I mean, I hope that hit somebody. I don't know who we're preaching to tonight, but definitely, we're hitting
so
home for
going back
somebody.
to number two, which is the law. Law is meant to protect justice, order, stewardship, responsibility, and human dignity. The law is necessary, and no society can operate without it. But the law must be used in truth, and laws aren't. That's another drift. The third facet is education. Now, if you keep them ignorant, what do you don't do? You'll keep them suppressed. They're never free.
Isn't that what we've got going on? I mean, we've been tossing books out of our libraries. We've been seeing to it
Well,
that
you
God is.
eliminate important parts of history. You got Bibles that have omissions and incorrect writings
Yep,
in them in the verses.
yep.
And a lot of people don't know, but it's what, faith comes by hearing of the word. And so even if the word is biblical, but it is not rooted in the truth, well, you're only getting a partial truth and you're not getting the whole truth. And therefore your belief system is a little bit off kilter and is not in alignment with what God expects. And so these things we need to get curious and check. But education is very important. I mean, Hitler threw all the books in there to burn the fire so he can actually suppress the people and have them believe what he wanted to believe. Napoleon, I mean, all the old, even in Roman times, they did that. You go out through history, if you take away education, you're squashing freedom. And that's the only reason.
Hmm.
You okay with it?
Interesting. Yep, yep. Doing great. Thank you. I'm listening for sure.
I
I
didn't
mean,
know if you saw like a lightning bug or something flying by that you're
no,
kind
they just have a lot to cover tonight in regards to freedom, and I really want to make sure we're making an impact tonight for everyone. So if you're out here tonight and you're watching, please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to go over some of the conversations that are being had right now. Amy came in and she was really shocked by two individuals, of course, saying that prayers don't pay bills.
yeah,
And then she
that
says,
just,
"My God,
wow.
again, God shall supply all needs according to his riches and glory. Leader of you, leading beyond, we are royal children of the King, 100%. And I think that that's a huge conversation itself that has been forgotten. We forget where we have come from, which is our whole premise for
Well, wait
tonight's
a minute.
conversation.
If you don't educate the truth, well, how do you know you're near to the kingdom?
Well, and that is part of our conversation tonight, right? Is the fact
Well, I
that
mean, that's what it's a facet to freedom, true freedom.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
this again. I'm going to remind everybody this monument was built. It's not just America. This is the framework to have true freedom in Christ, God's way that will set you free. It doesn't matter what nation it is. If they honor the way of God and what He's describing here, that nation would be free.
Leader of you, leading beyond consequences of your choice. We are now under the grace of Jesus. When you love Jesus, you want to submit your will and obey his laws, and he will make you free.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, but
100%.
the word is submit, and people don't like that word because that means I got to give myself up.
Kind of like obey. They don't like the word obey.
Well, obey is a
Those are
reason for it. I mean,
very firm words.
if you obey what I'm asking you, if a sheep gets out of the flock and there's wolves around, well, the sheep didn't obey the master, but it's now in serious danger of getting eaten, killed because he didn't
Mm,
obey.
yeah.
There's
Mm.
reasons. God,
Does
there's
that sound
rules.
familiar in today's world?
Hmm.
Just
So
asking the question.
now because all this is flowing downstream, so we're going through faith. We consult God in everything. She pointed out everything must flow through God because nothing can exist without Him. And because of that, we have faith knowing that we trust God for His provision and His protection and His love. And everything else flows downstream from that into morality. We got to have a conscience about us and understand that God is in control and we trust him. His ways are righteous and our ways are not because we're incapable of maintaining the law, which is next for morality because it compromises morality. And then
Amen. Amy says everything Jesus unlocked for us with his death on the cross was through submission. It's a powerful key.
it's the only way. It
Hmm.
is the only way. If you want to have true freedom in your life, you got to yield. I mean, let's even go back to the kingship and the knights. Knights pledge their loyalty to the king. That means they pledge their lives to the king. King David had loyal fighters, and I mean they were impressive. They took out some people that came after King David, but they would fight and surrender their lives in order to preserve King David, who worshipped God. You see the alignment?
Absolutely.
Just as us need to submit and pledge our loyalty to Christ because he knows far more better that for our lives than we could ever imagine. He created us.
So it
So if
says
you
here,
want, go ahead.
the Tansy rainwater. If I said that incorrect, please forgive me. Tansy rainwater 1419. God will make a way and help me get my rent paid so my landlord doesn't file an eviction this week. And that is absolutely true. I'm reading a book other than my Bible, which I read 3 times a day. But I'm reading a book about how you generate, the blessings. And so if you haven't picked up the book E Squared, by Pam, let's see, Pam Grout, I think is her name. I'll find the book in a little bit. But anyway, you generate your blessings. So you wake
Put it
up
in
to
the chat, Michelle, so they can
I'll
see
put that
that.
in the chat for everybody so that
Yeah.
they can, or I'll put it in yeah, let me put it in that chat for everybody here. But you generate your blessings. You can wake up tomorrow morning and say, God, today I need a blessing. Surprise me with a blessing. But at what level are you going to continue to work that blessing? Okay. Because again, we attract. So out in today's world today was interesting because the task for today in the book was for me just to ask for a blessing, not a specific blessing, just ask for a blessing, show me a blessing. I've had so many blessings today, so many. It was just
The Lord
unbelievable.
says, taste of him, he is sweet. And he also says, test him a lot of times on these things and see what happens. And we should, but more importantly, speak to it as it's already done.
Yeah.
All right. You know this rent's going to be paid. Speak to him. Father, thank you for this blessing. I know this rent is taken care of. You got it handled. And I place that in Jesus' hand. And amen. And just as it is, speak that way over your life. In victory, you're victorious. You're not a victim. When Jesus says it is finished, victory has been had. It's done. Believe that. See your life change. Start speaking it every day like that. So we're going into education. So the three things that add up finally to liberty. Liberty is not at the top. Freedom is not at the top. Liberty is down at the bottom. And it's a consequence of lining up with the rest of this. That generates liberty. If you don't follow that order, God has order for everything. If you don't follow that order, you're not going to have liberty. You're not going to have freedom. This statue is in Boston, Plymouth Rock, surrounded by a neighborhood. The Matrix of Freedom. How many people know about it? I asked you, Michelle, you didn't know. I
Say that
didn't know
again.
about it. I asked you about it. You didn't know. You didn't know it existed. And the big
No, I
question
did
was,
not know this existed. And
yeah,
then you tell me where it's at, and I'm thinking, well, no wonder I don't know where it exists or even that it existed. So, It's a great question for our listeners tonight. Did you know this existed? Do you
Why
know
would
where it's
you? Yeah, why would you hide something like that? Is just a great question. Why wouldn't somebody in our leadership this weekend point? They pointed to the Mount Rushmore. Why did they point to this?
Great question. Ooh, that's a good question. I want to hear from our listeners on this one. Why, why did they not speak upon this as our foundation?
So my question is, are we truly free? Well, it looks like we're at risk of not being free. We have the Constitution. We can be free and we can remain free, but we need to switch gears and go back and go in alignment with God. I mean, God could take it away. I mean, how many times in the stories in the Old Testament that the people got away from God? They had good times, they got content, they drifted. Hey, this is where we're at. Guess what? They got enslaved
Mm-hmm.
multiple times because they lost their way. It was their way instead of God's way. And when we start going that way, well, guess what? Lose your liberty, lose your freedom. It's as simple as that.
Amy says slaves through taxation
Love it, Amy. Yep. Hey, that's the reason why we left Britain, right?
is exactly why we left Britain.
Guess what? History repeated itself. The beautiful thing about this is now where we're going to go. Where's the next tea party? Because last time I checked, the world's getting one fuller. There's no place to run to.
I
So
don't
I
think
guess
we can go really anywhere. I think all the islands are consumed.
I think we better change our ways, is what I think, and start, straightening up the ship and act right. And ask God and say, "Hey, please forgive us. We really blown it, and we want to come back to you. Your way is the best way because our way is really killing a lot of people. It's creating a lot of misery, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety in people's lives. It
Let's
doesn't
talk
have
about that.
doesn't
You
have to
talked
be
about
that way.
right. You talked about the anxiety, right? Let's talk about that for a minute because we have a lot of anxiety in this world today that we did not have when you and I were growing up. That was not even something that was spoke upon, right? If you were someone who was maybe a little more high strung, oh, they're just a little, they're a little much. Or, we had someone that, maybe was a little more quiet. They're just quiet, they're shy. Now, today, we have a definition for everything.
Labels
The
that drives me
labels,
insane.
exactly. Labels
Well,
for everything.
yeah, we got to label people, and then you start labeling people. They believe what their labels are, and that's not who
Exactly.
you are.
Oh, well, I am ADHD. Oh, well, I am ADD. Oh, well, I am depressed. Oh, well, I am anxiety.
Well, I've got a pill for every one of those, and it has a lot of side effects. So, it's a self perpetuating industry. Labels. I mean, Michelle, you could be a nutritionist, but you could also, be a nurse. But I labeled you as a nutritionist, so you're not a nurse, too. But you got a condition.
Yeah. But I'm not labeled by my
But you had
condition.
cancer, too. So
I did. Yeah.
I was an alcoholic. So I'm a label. And I don't, I'm not a label.
I
I'm a
don't
person.
identify by the label.
Yeah, I am created by God. I am a person who stands for freedom, by the way, God's freedom, and I stand for faith. Who have values, that has morality, has a
Leader,
conscience.
leader of you, leading beyond. We have unknowingly created small idols, and God plainly said he is a jealous God.
He is a jealous God. He'll take
He
those
is.
idols out. He
Yeah.
showed Pharaoh a thing or two about his idols. so so did
Yeah.
the Romans. So it's what you believe. If you know the truth will set you free. Freedom is in Jesus because Jesus is truth. That's no label there. That's being. It's being who he created you to be and
So
being
you're
in
making me
him.
think back to this past week. Um, the question for one of my networking groups that I belong to, the question of the day was, if you could go back in time, where would you go? 99% said go walk with Jesus.
That would be an extraordinary event to experience the one who created the world.
So we do have people out here who are very
We do.
much
They
Christ
have a
followers.
yearn. They have a
They do
yearn.
have, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
somehow, the unity has not come back together for us to
No,
lead the way because we
I
have
do
let it slip.
believe, I do believe that it is coming together.
It
While
is.
slowly it is coming together, I do believe people are finding each other to have these conversations, which I pray our podcast here is reaching tons of people, thousands of people, millions of people, out here and hearing the word and saying to themselves, now that's my people. That's the people I want to listen to week after week.
We invite you to stand up and be that person.
Absolutely.
We need more lights on. We need them on for Christ. And Christ will lead the way. He'll light a path. He'll show us the way. But we got to unite, and we got to unite in Him. That's what this nation needs to do to have a revival, a repenting of our ways. It's not too late. It never is too late. But we got to make a choice. Because, like I said before, you can get so far, and God take you out. I don't
There
like
was
that. I
a friend
won't
of
want
mine.
that. I don't want that for my children. But you know,
But do
the
when we
leader.
do get removed or so far removed, again, this is the conversation, that we're having tonight of because like tonight, there was a friend of mine who posted, does anybody know of a priest that could come out and give somebody their last rites because this individual really needs it, they're scared. That's that's a scary thing to see even written out on Facebook, right? So of course, I'm chiming in. If they're on hospice care, just ask the nurse, right? Just ask the nurse to get them somebody. No one should be in fear.
Oh,
But yeah,
if there's
here's
a
the thing. I wish
no,
people would get to that point before they ask for that.
yeah, that's a sad moment. I mean, being in the hospital myself on that, on that bed and being put in hospice care. Yeah, and then as you know, God intervened, and here I am. I'm not the end of me, but
Right.
I've witnessed. The greatest thing I experienced when Melanie was in the hospital and she wasn't conscious really during this point, but there was another man across the hallway that was in great fear. And the nurse came over into my room, and I could tell she was highly upset. Her cheeks were red. She was, tearing up things. I said, "Is it about him?" And I know you don't tell me the name because you can't. So, but and she nodded. I said, "Why don't we just pray? Let's talk to God and let's pray over this man to have peace and let God come into his life during this transition time." We prayed. She went in that room. She came back in from that room. She said, "We give all these harsh medicines and we seek medicine first, but God answered that prayer. That man was in peace. We didn't have to give any medicine like that, and he passed on. He wasn't yelling anymore. God answered that prayer right then, right there." And it reminded that nurse, and she believed in God too. It just reminded that nurse. We get so ingrained in the worldly ways, we forget to reach up, like that statue points up to talk to our Father first, talk to Jesus, asked Him. You were talking about ask for a blessing. That was asking a blessing for that man suffering in fear, and it was answered. Yeah, I can't tell you how shocking that was, but God works like that. He hears you, and He'll answer him in His will. And that suffering went away. That man was at peace. You know what? That was a sign of relief, knowing that soul was being taken, not in fear, but knowing
And not
that
suffering along the way.
Yeah. So if you align with God, you're going to experience freedom. Now we can be the leaders, and we should always be a leader in the way of Christ. We follow Him, but we need to show other people the way. Show them there's a better way. Show them there's a light. Show them that when you surrender, you actually gain power through Him. You gain supernatural power and things that can be done that you can't explain nor can you influence. But you trust in Him. He's the one that controls everything, not us. We like to play that. We like to think that. But I asked you again, if you feel like you got to control something, where are you putting your trust in?
Hmm. That's a great question.
Proverbs
Leader.
14:34. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Righteousness creates order. It has morality in it. You walk in righteousness, you walk in the way of God. You're not subject to the law. So, and we're not talking about religion. We're not talking about empty acts of repetitiveness. We're talking about a relationship. First and foremost, this nation needs a relationship with God.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
individually
100%.
need a relationship with God.
Yeah.
We need to show our children to have a relationship with God. We need to show others how to have that same relationship. No matter what other people say or think, even if people get mad because prayers don't pay bills. I know they do.
Oh, amen to that. I've seen it. Seen it. I can give you dates and times that it's happened.
And what's sad is they're under their own steam and they're a branch apart from the tree. They wither
Well,
away.
the conversation is if you're having that conversation that prayers doesn't pay bills, you need to have the conversation of
There is a
where did I lose my faith? Where
well,
did
yeah,
I
yeah,
stop?
yeah. All right, bing, bing, bing. There you go. It's the right question because that's the reason why you're at where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Somewhere you drifted away.
Yeah.
You
So many
stopped
people,
having those conversations.
so many people are under their own steam. That's what I say. You don't think about it. If God spoke everything to existing, you can't exist without God, right? If God withdraws from you, which is the tree, the vine, the branch falls off. Okay, the branch lasts what, a while? Where it withers up. First thing goes is fruit. Second thing are the leaves. Next thing you're just a branch. And eventually the branch dry rots. It takes time. And so when you get to a point in life and you wonder why you're there, you didn't get there just from yesterday or today. You got there over a season.
Oh, you
And
you
you
took the decades to get there.
and so that was a mindset, that was a belief, and actions created that. And their subconscious level, but you end up going back to the same place. No matter if you try to do something different, you end up in the same place. The question is, what do I truly believe and what am I lying to? What do I trust? What I don't trust? Those are great questions to start asking yourself. I'm not just saying this, folks. I'm just saying to start asking yourself questions because a belief unchecked will dictate your life. And you may not like where it's going. So you might be frustrated. You might be anxious. You might be fearful. You might be stuck. You might be just flat out hollow and empty in your life.
But
And there's
ask
a
yourself
reason.
where that began too. I mean, there has to be some reflection when we speak upon this, William. We need to have a clear reflection back, asking everyone to just take a moment. You're getting tugged on. You're hearing your spirit's being stirred tonight. Because I promise you, William's preaching to somebody tonight. I don't know who that is, but you know
I'm
who
not
you
meaning
are.
to preach. I'm saying some truths. You're already where you're at. Now there are some circumstances that put you where you're at, and if that's the case, there's a reason that you're in that spot too. But most
And again,
often it's
ask yourself why and how that all came to
yeah,
be,
and then
and
you
then
need to ask
go right
what
back
I,
to him.
yeah, exactly what I need to learn from this. But also, most of the time though, it's internal that's created the external, and you don't like the external, but you're not looking at the internal why it existed in the first place. And you need to reflect there and ask
Amen.
themselves serious questions about it, because if you don't, you'll continuously end up where you don't want to be. But the great news is you can change that. We may be shadows of like we used to be in America, may shadows of ourselves, but even shadow has a little bit of light left to produce the shadow.
Very true. Very true. All right, everyone. That was some really good nuggets tonight. I know we kind of took a rabbit hole for a few moments, but
Oh, rabbit holes are
I
fun.
hope that everybody definitely heard what was being said. Freedom. What is freedom? That was our discussion tonight. And if you have not checked out that monument,
Go, yeah, please
go
look it
take
up, study
take
it.
a summer take a summer break and go check that out. I know it has piqued my curiosity. I mean, I thought William was saying that it was something in Washington, D.C., and then I come to find out it's nowhere. Well, it's near there, but it's not where we actually thought it was. So, with that being said, do your
Well,
research on that.
Satan doesn't want you to see what true freedom is and how to attain freedom. So that's why it's just sitting in a neighborhood or even a parking lot. You know, it's not even brought up. And you get the Washington Monument, you get the Jefferson Monument, you get Abraham Lincoln Monument, you get the presidents on Mount Rushmore, but every one of those have a biblical verse. If you hadn't noticed, in the time period most of these were done around the 1800s, when we
Yep.
really had faith.
Which is
Yet we
what we're
don't
founded
today.
upon.
Is the point is every one of those in existence because somebody believed enough into God and made a reference to it and immortalized it in a monument for us
That's
to
right.
remember what true freedom's about and what it cost and who you can find it in. So those are your nuggets. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right, everyone. That was Mindful Nuggets for tonight. Join us Thursday night for our 90-day devotional every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. on the East Coast, right here on the Mindful Nuggets podcast channel. Mindful Nuggets sponsors the 90-day devotional that we do every Thursday night. So come back and join us, be a part of that devotional, get in that conversation. I know Melanie's got a great one for us coming up Thursday night, so make sure you spread the news. All right, everyone. A beautiful and
Thank you,
wonderful
everybody,
night.
for joining. Appreciate you. Michelle, did we cover freedom? Yes, we are still live. I've got this in the way. I'll get us off and